lives in an old farmhouse that belonged to her parents before her, and it belonged to their parents before them, and their parents before. It has been in the family since the 1700s, in the day of Lord Fairfax. There have been additions, to be sure, but the main structure has housed Erskines for over 300 years. On the other hand, there's my sister and her husband. Stuart graduated from West Point 20-some years ago, and they've never, ever owned a home. They've never lived any one place for more than 3 years. In fact, 3 years is a pretty long stint for them. They've lived in apartments, in houses. They've even lived in hotels while being on waiting lists for military housing. Some people live in great big houses. Some people live in apartments. The IKEA store in Chicago has displays of micro apartments, living spaces of 900 feet. I know, but they're homes. Regardless of the size, there seem to be two things that go along with belonging in or to a home. And the first is that you have some rules to follow. The rules of a household keep the residents from losing their minds, and it keeps life in good order. When there are rules, you know what to expect, right? They let people who really do love one another live together like people who love one another. You know not only what you have to do, but you know the ways that others will care for you, despite feelings to the contrary, as probably any confirmand in this rule can say. The rules for living make us the most safe and secure and allow us to feel loved and give us the most freedom. From my friend to my sister to all of you, we all have them. Do your homework. Eat your vegetables. Keep your room clean. Everyone takes a turn at setting the table, clearing the table, doing the dishes, cleaning up after the dog, scooping the litter box. Don't hit one another. Take off your shoes before you come in from the backyard. Hang up your jacket. Share your toys. Say please and thank you. Turn off the lights when you leave the room. Shut the door. Were you born in a barn? If something is taken out, put it away. Brush your teeth. Practice your instrument. Rules keep chaos from reigning supreme in our lives. The other thing one has when one belongs to a home is a key. Do you remember the first time you were handed a house key? I have one in my pocket and I can't get to it. Do you remember the first time somebody gave you a house key? The sense of awe that you were practically an adult? You were entrusted to be a full-fledged member of the household. You really do belong there because you have a key and can let yourself in. But oh my goodness, do you remember the sense of fear that came along with having your own house key? You really could be alone sometime, all by yourself. The creaks, and the groans, and the noises that the house made, or the noises from the neighbors upstairs or downstairs or off to the side, those dark corners where the monsters were lurking. When I was a child, grew up across the street from my grandparents, and I was so thrilled when my mother gave me my first house key and I could get off the bus all by myself, and she didn't have to be there. I could break the no TV till after your homework was done rule, and nobody would be any the wiser, only it turned out it was scary to be in that house by myself. But I didn't need to worry, because did I mention my grandmother lived across the street? And she always needed sugar or something about the time I got home. Or she had just made cookies, and she'd sit with me and we'd have a snack. She'd chat with me while I did my homework. I was never alone in that house. There was always somebody with me, a voice of calm, a sense of safety, the security of being well loved. Jesus is preparing his disciples for his departure. He is going to leave them. He will be crucified. He who has walked with them, taught them, shared sleeping arrangements with them, broke bread with them, he is going to leave them. And he seeks in these moments to comfort them with the words, I will come and make a home with you. And those who love and keep his promises, keep his word, can rest in these promises. Keeping Jesus' word is no different than keeping the rules in the house in which you reside. God has graciously given us rules to live by, laws that we can follow that keep life in good order. And Jesus has condensed them into love God with your whole heart and your whole mind and your whole soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. It's not a fearful thing to keep these rules. Not only do we love our neighbor, but you know what? You can expect your neighbor to love you in return. If we are to forgive someone, maybe it's even someone in our very own house, 70 times 7, we can expect to be forgiven that much. Wow. If we are to go the extra mile for someone, we know that when we need to go that extra mile, someone will be there by our sides. If we are supposed to give our coat to someone who's cold and naked, or food to one who is hungry, then by gosh, I know that if I'm going to be naked or cold or hungry, somebody's going to take care of me. We are promised a community, a family with whom we can dwell in safety, security, and love. Jesus isn't admonishing us, keep my word or else. No, we already have a place in the household, and Jesus is inviting us to exercise the freedom of being full participants in that household of grace, where Jesus and the Father will always be with us. Jesus comes to us where we are. We don't have to pass muster to get to him. We're promised that in being full members of the household, we can be full participants in its workings. From our baptism on, we are members of God's kingdom. We have the security of a home. We don't have to wait until we're confirmed, or we've graduated, or we've gotten married, or we've reached a certain age. We are valued, appreciated, loved, trusted right where we are now. And when it seems scary, or if we're not sure that we're ready, we have this whole community to surround us, encourage us, walk beside us. Today we embody being that household of faith. Confirmation class is going to slip their sneakers on in a bit. It doesn't matter how old they are. They're all going to walk together, and I'm going to try to keep up with them. They're going to walk for and with people who are hungry. As young as they are bodily offering themselves in service to combat the issue of hunger in our world. And on the way, they're going to find places of rest in the company of Methodists and Catholics. They're going to walk beside Presbyterians, Episcopalians, Baptists, and even Missouri Synod Lutherans. They'll be trusted to use their gifts for the good of all of God's people. And on the way, there will be fellow travelers looking out for them. For you are going to be walking beside them as well. It isn't just the kids, but we're all walking today to make sure that everyone is fed, and that in the household of faith, we are commanded to look out for the most vulnerable of society. In this household of faith, we share what we have with others, and in doing so, we walk. We walk together to feed the hungry. As we go about living in this household, we know that Jesus is here. Jesus is with us. Jesus is walking with us, living with us, loving us. And Jesus is right beside us when things are going great, and right beside us when we're out in the cold and the rain. Right beside us when we follow the rules, and right beside us when we mess up. Jesus is with us, making his home wherever we are found, not because of what we have done, but because that is the nature of Jesus, to dwell in the midst of his people and make his home with us, wherever that home might be.